Cameron, Melody.
How is everybody?
Hanging in there. Everybody had a busy week so far?
Yep.
Hey, John.
Hey, John. Did anybody get a chance to look at that 90 feet under video that I had sent out at one point? Well, Eleanor, you were on that call, but so let's see, we've got Monique, Melody. Nice cap, Monique. I'm not used to seeing you with a cap on.
I was totally expecting that because I never wear caps, but I was out doing some gardening today and had a break, so
Yeah.
sorry.
Oh, it looks great. As long as it doesn't say "Make America Great Again," I'm.
It absolutely does not.
Make it great for the first time. Okay, well, I appreciate all of you coming, and it's been a crazy week for most of us, I think. Joe Baldino, Mike Dandoffer. Okay. So, does anybody have anything new in terms of budget news or anything coming out from central office? Nothing? Well, I guess that's good. I think it's going to be a little bit of a quiet time. We did have the Rochester Coalition for Public Education did have a meeting with the superintendent early last week, and of course they're struggling trying to figure out how they're going to get through the coming years. Things are still very much up in the air, and the way things are going with COVID-19, it's anybody's guess just what the fall will bring if things stay quiet as far as the pandemic goes. Maybe they'll be able to reopen in some of the schools, but things still sound like they're up in the air. And of course, the other thing we have is that the governor, as much as he's been sounding really good for the last few months, has it together and is leading the charge. Traditionally, I think, in the past, he's been kind of pro-charter school. I hope that may change as time goes on, but either way, he's going to have a real tough time if the federal government doesn't come through with some assistance for the states so that they can make up the huge deficit they're going to have from reduced tax intake because of the shutdown. So the numbers I'm hearing from there are, he's conjectured there could be a 20% reduction in funding for various things such as schools. So we'll see how that all plays out.
I think to keep in mind the virus is not going to go away.
Yeah, oh no, it's going to be here until we've got a vaccine for it.
Or enough of a collective discipline that we can make real progress.
Yeah.
I mean, New York did for a while, but nobody else, I don't think, has quite done that.
No, pardon?
The latest numbers are single digits of new cases in Monroe County, so things are really dropping. We're not a problem state. If you look at the statistics, we're like light blue with Florida, Arizona, and California. So I don't know why we want to be. I don't know how we can be pessimistic. I think things are becoming optimistic. You're right. It's not going to go away, John Lang, until we finally have a vaccination. But they're fast tracking this, and they really think it's going to be around. It'll be here probably by January. They're starting to do testing already on it. So I'm very encouraged.
Yeah, so if at the rate things are going, it's going to be a very interesting fall and winter, and hopefully we'll sometime next year have a solution for the virus. Last week we had a presentation at the coalition meeting where John Strezabasco presented his 90 Feet Under book presentation, and I've sent the link to the recording we did of that presentation. It's somewhat lengthy. There was a lot of material in there, and that's really a book that I would recommend all the schools look at, because it goes over all the issues that stress children that are brought up in poverty.
Are the slides in there?
The slides, I was going through just before this meeting, going through that video and pulling out some of the slides so we can take a look at some of them. And okay, do you see 90 Feet Under
Yep.
screen there? Okay, so this is one of the slides from that presentation, and basically he's looking at the standard definition for a family of four in poverty is $24,455 a year income. People, whatever race they are, the DNA is basically pretty much identical. There's only a few percent, fractions of a percent difference between any of these kids, for instance. But somehow children that live in poverty have many problems that others do not. Poverty, as he pointed out, is there really are a lot more white people that are in poverty in this country, about 27 million versus about 9 million black individuals. But of course, percentage-wise, blacks, there are a higher percentage of blacks that are living in poverty. But all of these folks have the same problem that they run into, and he goes through and identifies some of the big stressors that people in poverty live with. Certainly just survival is one of the big issues that they have to face every day. Some of the things that put kids in poverty at a bit of a disadvantage is the way they normally speak, casual register versus a more formal register that the teachers may use. Kids in poverty have half the vocabulary. They have more reading problems. Not sure what he meant by realities of their lives. One of the big things that a lot of kids in poverty face is shame, that they feel that they aren't. They're often made to feel ashamed of what they're doing or the state they're in. And I can remember myself. My mother was born during, just before the First World War, and they were so poor during the First World War that her mother couldn't buy rags to patch the clothes with, and she ended up dropping out of school in 4th grade, and she had that writing on her back for the rest of her life, always feeling that she was didn't get a good education, had to leave. The teacher made fun of her because she had a hole in her skirt or something. But I heard so much about the issues that they had and the shame that they had for being poor, and this impacts a lot of children in today in our society today. The title 90 Feet Under comes from the fact that all of these stressors that people in poverty have to endure, he'd come up with 90 of them. We thought of a few more as he was going through the presentation, and this is John Strasbosco here. The thing that he went into that was interesting is when we look at these various stressors, they of course are impacting the neurons, and that ends up affecting the chromosomes, and eventually chromosomes either get altered or suppressed, and that increases morbidity. And this was, some of you probably have seen this before, but at the end of the tips of chromosomes there are telomeres, which are kind of a protective shield at the end of the chromosome. And
John?
Yeah.
I'm not seeing anything except for the front page. Is everybody else seeing the rest of the?
No.
No.
No, oh gosh. I was hoping that was, let me,
There you go.
do you see the chromosome effect?
Yes, we do.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Alrighty. I thought that when I was paging through the pictures here that we would see them, but anyways, this is the first really interesting one here. So at the tips of these chromosomes, you've got telomeres, which the various stressors that, people who, whether you live in a war zone or in a really troubled neighborhood, or you're going hungry most of the time, whatever the stressor is, they can eventually impact the telomeres that are at the end of the chromosomes. And as we age, they normally shrink anyways, but if you're in a high stress situation, they shrink faster, and that begins to impact how well your cells can divide and replace damaged cells. So this is one of the physical pathways that the stress that you have can end up impacting the body. So the other thing that cortisol, which is a stress hormone that people get, even if somebody just makes fun of you and you feel embarrassed, that can impact how much cortisol the body releases. That face tells you everything about what a lot of these kids go through. So this was let me see another interesting slide he had was families that are fairly well off are not coming from poverty. They generally will be a lot more positive when interacting with their kids than our families in poverty. So where a child coming from, middle class home, they may get 7 positive reinforcements for every 1 negative reinforcement. So each time they get, that a boy, oh, you can do that, various reinforcements, and occasionally, you got to stop that. They basically are building up their self-esteem, whereas children in poverty often get more negative feedback than they do positive feedback, and that basically hurts their progress in a lot of the things that they do. So that covers a few of the things that John Strasabasco had in his presentation. You were at that presentation too, John. Was there something in particular that you recall that?
Yeah, on the feedback I think that a kid would get, talked there about the average number of sort of put downs or slights that a black kid will get. It was like 5 a day. And what's the cumulative effect of those 5 every day, every day, every day? And the ego of the kid is just so traumatized actually by that over time. It's not surprising.
Yeah.
Nice to hear you talking about the children. This is what it's all about, the children. And these are our city children, many of them. Many, many of them.
And so I would recommend, if you get a chance, take a look at the video that I sent you a link to. It goes over it in good detail. The thing that it ends up, you end up looking at, my God, we have all these things that are lumped on these kids because of poverty, and in the case of city schools where maybe 50-60% of the kids are really in bad shape coming in the door, that impacts the teaching environment for all the kids in the school. So when you look at this, this really points to the fact that it's not just getting 2 or 3 more counselors for the school that's going to fix the problem. Ultimately, you need to get to the issue of why are so many people in poverty, and that gets into the whole structural racism issue, and also some of the when you look at the disparity between the ultra-rich in our society and the vast majority of middle class and lower class folks, it's just gotten worse and worse over the years.
John, when we speak, which is what everyone's speaking about today, is Black Lives Matter, and I'm talking Rochester, New York. Black lives, quality of lives matter. And one of the main factors that leads to poverty is poor education, poor jobs. And I'm afraid we have that formula going in Rochester. I think we should start holding some accountability here with the teachers union, just like with the police union, and with the teachers on the, and yes, it is difficult to teach some of our children who are not happy little children, and there's a lot of reasons why, and we should all be aware and try to help as much as we can. But main core to get out of poverty is education and good jobs. So I think that's what we should focus right here as an educational group how we're going to raise the quality of education in Rochester, which is very, very low, and how are we going to do it?
One of the things that hopefully we will get as we see the whole Black Lives Matter movement coming through, and I mean, by this fall, we'll either have, by November, we'll either see a new administration coming in, or we'll even have bigger problems to face. But there's going
Well,
to...
what are we doing as people? What am I doing? What are you doing? I mean, we got the city of Rochester. If we could help the whole world, that would be wonderful. But I think in the city of Rochester, we should try starting right now for our people in the city of Rochester. And number one, raising the quality of education.
Yep.
And bringing in good jobs here to help people generate out of poverty. A lot of the frustration, and of course, get that damn drug world, put them somewhere on the moon. It's I worked in it, and I know. I look at the women and the people within that community. They're a hell of a lot stronger than I am, because what they are enduring between the lack of jobs, the lack of education, the crime. We got to start in our own backyard in Rochester. And I think we're all here about education and how we're going to do that.
Yep.
I was lucky. I was brought up, I had a wonderful education. Good jobs. I was lucky, and so were you probably, John.
Oh, yeah.
So we gotta see what's been done to people as far as quality of life, and it's not pretty.
No.
It's not pretty.
Yeah, so we've got, we'll see what develops in terms of state and national policies, but we do have a lot of issues that we're going to have to face in the coming months. I mean, just the fact that a lot of people who are currently still just hanging on, even though they've lost their jobs, will we have the resources? Lee Loomis.
So, one of the things, Mary, I heard you say, or what is we as individuals doing? And I think some of the things that we can do is identify the people who are already at the front end, and that is like Black Lives Matter, but also people like Zola Brown, who is the president of the 19th Ward Community Association, and at the last Southwest Common Council meeting said, if we don't have an impact on economics, nothing's going to change.
Absolutely, equality.
And you can't have all these big companies who are saying Black Lives Matter, but then you look at their board and they're all white. So those are some of the things.
That's what I'm saying.
We go to Zola and say, what is it we can do for you? Or we go, as far as quality of education, we got how many CETs
we're right
in
here.
operation right now? Who attends those? We need to be at those
and we're supposed
ask,
to be
what is it you need?
Group. Yeah, we're supposed to be for education, and it's been a failure in Rochester. How can we make it better? How can we make it better? I don't know, but we have to face it and stand up for it. What's the name of the lady that
Zola Brown is the 19th Ward president, 19th Ward Community Association president.
All right. I'm part of a group right now that is trying to also organize to try to push for some quality of life issues. So people, it isn't just police, it's a whole gambit. And help raise the quality of life and have a chance, just like I had a chance.
Yeah, there are things within the Rochester, community in terms of trying to improve the interaction between the police and the community are things that we can
Right.
work with.
Right.
And those are things we're going to have to look at. I've been in. I walked PACTAC, police and citizens together against crime for 30 years. But you look at what goes on sometimes, and all these things that are now showing up in videos that we didn't see before.
Right.
It opens your eyes to
And-
what's going on when you're not there looking at it.
And they're asking the police union for transparency on any records of any police. I am saying maybe this should also be done in the city school district too.
Yeah.
Absolute transparency. Our city children deserve the best education they have. They're fragile right now. And it should be an open book. We should be, if we're here for education, we should be all here trying to get what we can. It shouldn't be as low as it is. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And we can't keep blaming the children. We
no.
can't.
No.
We got to give them a break.
I mean, there have been some positives that we've seen come out of some of the turmoil of the last few weeks. They've opted for taking police out of the schools, which I think most people would say is a positive. It reduces the chance that kids get arrested or labeled or pushed around by the police. Hopefully the monitors that the schools hire are they're coming out of the woodwork. Good. So hopefully, there are some improvements taking place, and that will help improve the atmosphere in the schools and try to get to more of a restorative justice model in the schools. But all these things are going to take time and effort and training, and I guess
It isn't just the police. It isn't just
no. The big question I think we've got several people from the CET meetings here. How receptive are the unions and the teachers to getting training for restorative justice? Have you been able to get people trained as fast as you'd like, or what are the obstacles there?
John?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
You can go first.
Okay, I was going to say, by the way, this is Eric Stevens. Sorry for jumping on late. And John, thank you for the follow-up email reaching out to me. I know from my work in schools, first of all, two things. One regarding the school, the RPD officers in schools. I agree that it's not only the police, but I do believe the police in the schools is a problem. I'm thankful they won't be there anymore. I have a good friend who's my son's baseball coach, who's a RPD officer in a school. And I remember a conversation that I had with him last summer. And he was telling me how he was telling me he was excited to tell me he had identified all the bad kids and had already gone to all their houses and just let them know if they act up one time, they're going to get locked up. And in my mind, I thought, can you imagine if you're getting ready for school and you're excited to go back and see your friends, and then you have a cop show up at your door, and that's your welcome to this school year. That conversation bothered me on so many levels. And I also know that students and parents felt I can't say, oh, many of the students and parents I talked to and deal with told me that they felt like the cops were there to protect the teachers, not to build relationships with students and keep the environment safe, but they were there to protect teachers and staff. And that also troubled me.
Yeah, I was encouraged when you started talking about he was going to their houses. I
Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
Go to the house and talk to
Yay.
the parents.
But right,
Positive
but
outcome.
right, but it wasn't. It was to go and tell all the bad
Yeah, I
kids,
realize
and,
that.
and air quotes. If you mess up one time, I'm not gonna play with you. I'm gonna lock you up, and you're gonna be in juvenile. And like I thought to myself, gosh, what if that was my son that was going through like 16, 17, and 18? Like, first of all, the teenage boys' frontal cortex isn't even fully developed to age 25 to make rational decisions. And I think of my own son who just turned 16 2 weeks ago, who was a straight A student and a great kid, but all of a sudden at 16 he's being a little bit more ruder. His tone changes,
Major.
and that's teenagers.
Yeah.
And
That's,
and to just think that was going to be their first interaction with the school staff person for the year. Just broke my heart.
well, I just feel very bad that our rating in the educational system is so low because it is our children who suffer. So, and I know everybody poo-poos East High School, but it happened to be in a neighborhood that I represent, and it is a difference of night and day of children who were leaving every second of the day in and out of doors, doing drugs behind buildings, absolutely out of control, to children that come out, they're pleasant, they smile. We've had things down there. There's this wonderful, they're into the child. It can be done. It can be done. And the children deserve it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
So we, as a educational committee here, we should make sure it's done.
Yeah, one of the issues that we'll have to deal with is, of course, they pumped in a lot of money into that transformation that took place at East High. And
they put a lot of money in other places too, and it's bombed. It's how it's done.
It's how it's done, yeah.
It can be done.
Yes.
It can.
Amen.
Cameron.
I
Comment? Claire,
yeah, I
Cameron?
do have a comment because that model is not sustainable, and it's really not fair to even try and compare East to all the other high schools.
Well, we have to raise the other schools up to East and make it sustainable for the children. Yeah, for the children.
If each school had a university behind it and had one superintendent behind every school, you would see some changes.
Well,
but I also have to say, East High School, for all these accolades that everybody's giving, they're still on receivership. They're lowest,
absolutely,
like all the rest of us.
Absolutely, but they're a lot higher. They've been there for a certain length of time and they've gotten it a lot higher.
5 years and had an extension.
And their graduation rate is a lot higher. And it helped.
Got 1,000 kids. It better increase.
It was bottom low. I'm here for the kids. I'm not here for anything else. And if East can do it, then let's find.
I'm here for the kids too, but it has
to.
And
let's find a way. And if East
It sounds like it's money.
It is. It's the funding.
Well, it's not just money. I want to introduce myself. My name is Melody Bishop, and I'm at 19. And there's a couple things I would like to express my thoughts on. In terms of, John, a little while ago, you brought up restorative practices. I think that there's implementation in most schools, and it varies across the board. To go back to that one question that you asked, And I wanted to make sure that I had an opportunity to respond to that. I also am hesitant when I hear about about teachers. It's not. I know the teachers are working really hard. I've been in a lot of schools. I know the administration is working.
Yeah, I taught at one time. Yeah.
Okay. So this is what I would like to express.
Yeah.
Our district systematically, okay, moves people around constantly. Teachers are cut, administrators are changed. I cannot express to you the complications that brings to a school. Yes, we are one district, but you can't just move people around. Those are relationships. Those are families. I want you to think of a district in any surrounding area, East Rochester, Irondequoit, Greece. None of them have their staff changed and rearound like we do. Some of those principals remain in that school for their entire career. You don't see that. You don't see that happen in the Rochester City School District. Okay. So before I'm so passionate about it because, I've been in the district for 20 years. I've been at 8, 1, 46, 58, now 19. I've been all over the place. Each school is so different. And I just cannot express how important it is that there's consistency across our district. It is not fair. So I would say that's where we need to start. I remember last year, Cameron, I was watching the board meeting when they came after to move you from your school. Like her school begged and pleaded and there were tears shed to keep her. And when you say, Mary, I'm just thinking about the programs, there were some programs that were working in schools that they cut. So let me just kind of give you a picture of what happens is they'll move money into a program. A system will then the school will be lifted up. Its scores will be lifted up. And as soon as that school gets lifted up and their students are flourishing, one of two things happens. And maybe even both. A, they move the administrator, or B, they pull the funding. And usually it's both go at the same time. So we are as frustrated as you. And trust me, you can't do this for 20 years and not love what you do, or you are miserable and you got to go, okay? Because we do love these kids, and we do not go to work thinking and waking up every day, what can I do to make this child's life more miserable?
So is it the administration that's at fault here? Administration?
No, it's the fact that
it's on one person or one entity. There's no way you can pinpoint it on one entity.
No.
It's the system.
It's the system.
It's the system.
But it's worse in Rochester, New York than any place else. Why?
How many superintendents we've had in the last 20 years?
Why?
Not the teacher's fault, not the student's fault.
All I'm saying, what can we all do for the children? That's all I'm saying.
And what I'm saying is that's where we got to start. And I am hoping that she is going to stay here. I mean, that was my hope with Terry too. But that we can have a leader who is really going to stick around to see our district through. That's what it's really, honestly, that's what I think it'll take.
And a lot of the things that we've been facing is caused by what the state does to the district. Some of the requirements, putting a school into receivership. Well, the way they go about it, which often means they're moving teachers around. They may, get rid of that principal, which doesn't mean you're getting rid of a principal. They're moving somewhere else. And if we look at School 41, they had put it into receivership and it was going to have extended hours, which meant that most of the teachers who had tenure jumped ship because they didn't want the longer hours, and they had to rehire about half the staff, train them, and then they didn't quite make the grade as far as the state was concerned, even though they did do some good improvement in terms of atmosphere and attendance. And then they ended up having to change principals again and replace a good share of the staff. They what are they calling it now? Prime or something? They changed the name of the school.
Tenure.
Prize
Yeah.
with an R.
I mean, you live in Rochester and you can't tell what the name of the school is because they're always changing it for this or for that. I mean, it just tears the fabric of the community apart the way the state treats the schools. They would never get away with that if it was Pittsburgh. But that
So,
happens
John-
time and time again.
Well, then maybe we should meet with the state because generational poverty goes on and on and on. Because of our poverty level, there's tons of money that comes in this city, but our poverty level never changes.
Well, if you look at American history, that's how America was designed. If you look at American
Yes.
history, that's how it was designed. So
Yeah.
that poverty
So-
goes on and on and on. So
That's
So,
exactly right.
although
So,
they contemplated
John?
new programs, new information, new laws, nothing changes because that is the design. So
Let's start with a good
we
education.
cannot
Good
keep
job.
saying if we don't get to those poor Black kids or those low income kids. No, it's not about just one group of people. It's about everyone. And
Amen.
until we start to realize that this is all of our problem, that these are all of our kids,
Absolutely.
we're going to continue to get what we've always gotten. But when we can't even come together based on our county with schools, because we got people continuing to say, no, these schools out here are separate from those schools over there. And until we can come together, you're going to keep seeing what you're seeing because you got concentrated poverty in one area.
Mm-hmm.
So, John, someone had mentioned like there would be a willingness to have a conversation at the state level. So my boss is Wade Norwood, who's in New York State Board of Regents.
Mm-hmm.
If that's something that
Yes.
if this committee would be interested in doing a Zoom with Wade Norwood,
I'd love to have him join us. Yes.
I think that's key because the systemic change. Melody talked about how as soon as something comes in, you pull it out from under them. The same thing happens with employment for low income. As soon as they get jobs, you pull their food stamps, you pull their any extra funding so that they can't
Rise
continue to
above their
make it.
condition. They can't
So-
rise above their condition.
Right. So I think what we need from Wade is action steps. What are the things we can do to change the system? And I think that's where maybe ask Wade to the next meeting.
Yeah. And
So now there's Wade's schedule's busy, so it might be like I could offer the next meeting, or it might be the following meeting. But
Sure.
I'll reach out to John. I'll shoot you an email tonight
Perfect.
or tomorrow, and we could get that conversation started. Okay?
And,
Yeah.
and I think we feel a good education and good jobs will help this whole people of equality. There's no equality when no one can ever get out of poverty. So that would be wonderful. And Wade's good people, so that would be great.
yeah, I sent you a note yesterday, Eric, and I also copied Wade on it. There was a Zoom meeting yesterday that had to do with physicians that are pushing for single payer insurance with the hopefully new administration. And they went through some data that was really interesting and kind of foreboding as far as what the U of R is doing, is going to be able to continue doing. Turns out that an awful lot of just about all the hospitals in the country are really aimed at doing elective surgery. They're not really making money because they're keeping people healthy. They're making money because they're doing facelifts, or we got to replace a kidney or something. But during this pandemic, that really has become obvious that they've had to cut down on a lot of the elective surgeries they do, and their income has tanked. Meanwhile, the income of the insurance companies has been doing quite nicely. And what we've, when we go back to Obamacare, at that time we had a real loss of jobs in the country, and saying you're going to do a single payer thing would have been very difficult, because you're going to be doing away with half the people in the hospital who are there in order to process all the claims that come through to keep the hospital going. So there was probably method in the madness of using the approach that they did for Obamacare. But there is a reckoning to be had soon, because all these hospitals are going to be, some of them are trying to reopen now and take care of elective business. But if, right now we've got the U of R that may or may not be able to have students back on campus next year. Now that's a big part of their income. The other part of their income is the
They've already
hospital.
Committed to East. They've already committed to East.
John?
Yeah?
If I could add too, like bringing Wade would be really interesting, because probably a lot of people don't know that Common Ground Health is actually a regional health planning agency.
Mm-hmm.
So Wade is in those conversations about insurance reform, and so I think a conversation with Wade could touch a lot of points on what we're talking about.
Oh yeah, I think I'd love to get him involved, because several of the things we're working on, basically intertwine, and the only way you're really going to make a solution is to address more than just one aspect of it.
Amen. And Wade is into education.
Oh, he's wonderful.
Yeah. Now, I know U of R took East. I think in Buffalo, Eric, do you know how many corporations or what have taken over schools in Buffalo? I wonder if we could get more corporations.
Yeah. So Buffalo has an interesting model. I don't know how familiar you guys are with Say Yes.
Buffalo, yeah.
Yeah, so Say Yes is really a unique organization where they bring government and business together, to help elevate typically struggling urban school districts.
Yeah.
Now there's still some problems in Buffalo, of course. Like there's never going to be a perfect situation, but what Say Yes does, it gets business, community, and government working together. And so I'll tell you, I'll be very brief, but basically the model is that Say Yes will put one staff person, like if Say Yes came to Rochester, they would put one chief executive officer for Say Yes Rochester. Now there's about 50 or 60 other jobs that will be needed to support Say Yes, but those jobs are all funded through the school district and the city government, but they only answer to the Say Yes executive director for Rochester.
Yeah.
And all the data is shared everyone receives the data at the same time. Everyone has to be transparent. And what Say Yes brings to let's say example that they came to Rochester, they have a network of 165 plus universities across the country that every graduate in Buffalo, regardless of their income, will receive a tuition-free scholarship to any of those schools that they're accepted to. No, regardless of your income. And there's HBCUs, there's Ivies, there's U of R. I mean, there's University of Arizona. It's every kind of school that you could think of. And Say Yes controls those scholarships. And that's the way they force city and county government and school district to work together is with those scholarships.
It's good.
And if one of those entities aren't being a honest player,
Mm-hmm.
then say yes. We'll threaten to rescind those scholarships. Now, I'm a parent of 4 kids. If my kid was going to lose that scholarship opportunity, I'm going down to the county executive
Right.
office and asking why aren't they working with the city and school district.
Right.
Now I'll say that doesn't mean everything in Buffalo is perfect.
I know. I
It's-
know. But I do. Yeah.
But what it's done, it has raised property values in Buffalo because families that moved outside of Buffalo are now like thinking, well, maybe I can find a neighborhood that I like in Buffalo.
Right.
You know, maybe I can. So property values in Buffalo are going up.
Yeah.
The graduation rate is going up. I think they might be in year 3 or 4 of Say Yes. But talking to the parents, they believe in Say Yes. They believe in it.
And that's
And
important.
I know that Say Yes wanted to come to Rochester, but Rochester has a lot of barriers, and a lot of people are just quick to say no to things. But I really suggest that you guys read on Say Yes. I think they're in Syracuse, Buffalo. They're in Charlotte, North Carolina. They just launched Say Yes Cleveland in 2019, and when they launched in Cleveland, they guaranteed. I think they started in the spring of 2019. They guaranteed all the 2019 graduates scholarships to whatever university they got accepted to, as long as it was in the Say Yes network. Even though Say Yes had just started in Cleveland, it's really an interesting.
How is
model.
the graduation rate in Buffalo? Is it as bad as ours, or?
No, it's slightly above Rochester.
All right.
But urban districts have a lot of barriers, and we've been talking about poverty being the number one thing. But I think Say Yes tries to give opportunity to families.
Eric, there was
And
something
college
else.
tuitions.
Yeah. There was something else that was discussed the last meeting, was vocational schools and the need for those that may not want to go on to college, who are gifted in different
So
things.
those are also in the Say Yes network.
All right.
So it's not just 4-year schools; it's 2-year schools. There's
Because they were even speaking about someone was trying to get a vocational diploma from high school for those that are trained to do skilled jobs.
Gets businesses to be a part of this. Like, companies need a viable workforce.
Right.
So it's in their best interest if they are investing in public education.
Yeah. Well, these are some wonderful things if we get our poor children going here.
See, Alicia Ward's got her hand up. Did you want to say something, Alicia?
Yes, I just had a question that I put in the chat.
Mm-hmm. Let me take a look.
So I was wondering what the duties are of the person that's providing oversight for the city school district, and can we invite that person to address the group?
What's her name again, John? We met with her, the coalition met with her and the superintendent last week.
Let me just say a little bit about that meeting, John.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we met with the superintendent, new superintendent, and the mentor, and I think you would have been encouraged by that. We had provided, here's a list of things that the consortium wants to do. And she'd gone through it. She had made notes. She could talk about all the points on there and was honest about, I would take this and this one I wouldn't take, and this is good. I thought that was very positive. You, John?
Yeah, I thought that went well. had a good meeting, and we're scheduled again on July 20th, I think it is, to get together with them.
So to answer Alicia's question, can that person be invited to one of these meetings?
We can try. They're busy, but it would be good to get her in if we can. Let's put it on our agenda to do that. The other thing, Eric, if you can, tomorrow there is at 2:30 the coalition, the Rochester Coalition for Public Education is having a Zoom meeting, and it probably wouldn't be a bad idea if you try to take those in. I can send you the link for that.
Yeah, send me the link. I have a one-on-one with my supervisor from 1:30 Tuesday, 1:30 to 2:30, but I could probably jump on right after that.
Okay, great, because we'd like to get it, the more interaction we get that's close to Wade Norwood, and also all the input that you can provide would definitely help that group. And I'll send you the information.
Yes, please.
Will do.
John, why don't you expand a little bit on what the purpose of the meeting is?
Yeah, do I have, see, I don't have the agenda right before me. Do you have?
Somewhere.
I have been blessed with so many emails from the coalition that it's hard to keep them all straight.
So you're not the leader on my phone anymore, John. Just an aside, one of the members of the coalition taught the superintendent in 5th grade, I think.
Yeah.
So she would say Mr. Mafucci.
Yeah, there are, the coalition includes some people who were principals or past superintendents. Mafucci is also on the county legislature. Well,
In the
anyway.
meantime,
I'm sorry. We're going to be going over some of the presentation that John Jakubowski had done, and also look at what had been the what the impressions were from the meeting with the superintendent. And also there's, of course, the question of how are the elections going, because we have we've been working closely with
Harry
what's his name, Harry Bronson. He's been really top notch in terms of interacting with us. He's not in high favor with the mayor, and they've been kind of trying to work him out of his seat. So we'll see how.
why is that? What's the reasoning behind that?
I'm not sure. There's some strange goings on in the Democratic Party in Rochester. It looks like Damon Meeks is going to be taking over Gant's seat, which is good. He's a good
man.
Yeah,
he's a good man.
Yep, I agree.
That was a real
Who's that? What's his name?
Demond Meeks.
Demond Meeks, yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He is a good man.
If
A
you say
community
so,
guy. He is a community guy.
Very.
He's like he is a relationships guy. He is a worker.
Good.
Lives in the
Yes, he's a good
1940s.
He's for the people.
Yes,
Yeah.
he is for the people.
Yeah, these are all things that we have to really focus on. I know that, well, we've got some people who are, you're in the city now, right, Monique? We have to really work at getting some good responsive people in office in the various positions we've got. And
But I think Lovely really is concerned about the schools,
she
however.
is, but
I'd like to see the quality raised like we all do.
yeah.
And it may be suggesting some more oversight, which never hurt anything. More in, the more can help. So I think I think her intentions are very honorable, that she wants the best for the children. So,
I would
that's
agree
how I
with you.
interpret it. Yeah, I think she's sincerely, wants the best for the children. We all do.
I just think I think they have different approaches to it.
Yeah.
And it would be nice if our dominant Democratic Party in Monroe County could work together instead of working against each other.
Yeah.
Or the quality of life. It's not just
Yeah.
Black Lives Matter. Quality of life for the Black lives also matters. And that's what education should be worked on, to raise the quality of life. And I think that's where Lovely's at.
So that covers a lot of the election results, of course, because there were so many mail-in ballots. We won't know for a few days, although it looks like Damon Meeks has a good chance of coming out first for his seat, replacing Gant. I think Wilt, who was going after Morelli's seat, I don't think she managed. But
Who is that?
Robin Wilt.
Yeah. I don't know.
She's very
It was pretty
progressive, and
tight. It was pretty tight.
it was,
No, it's 60. It's like 69 to 30 something now.
Oh, was it for? All right,
Yeah.
all right. When I saw it was a little closer. And of course they have all the absentee votes too. So
do you have anything? Let's see, is Joe still with us? Did you have anything new from School 29, Joe?
We had a very positive event last Friday for it took about 4.5 hours to recognize our 6th grade students. We drove around the city. It really was very nice. I've been around a long time. I can't think off the top of my head of a more meaningful event.
nice.
So many things going on right now in many different levels. I have to repeat them all. Finally, it was nice to see people smiling, laughing, cheering, and not, feeling good about stuff. So I enjoyed that very much. We have some extra time in our building, and I think we need a fresh start in so many different ways. So I'm really pushing our custodial staff we're on the facility modernization the following year. I know that some of my sister schools on the call here in Monique's 19 had few things done. I know 10 was kind of totally remodeled. And we're on one of those for the year after this next school year. But I really felt it's important that we have a fresh start. Painting wise, I expect the custodial staff to paint every classroom. It's not impossible. They have all kinds of extra time. I also feel it's extremely significant that we improve the environment outside of our schooling grounds. So we started a garden club. These folks are I love them, man. They're go-getters. They're out there today digging up boxes. And I told them I taught social studies for 20 years. So I remember Athenian democracy. It's a pure democracy. Everybody's equal. You hit reply all, set up a meeting, and start digging up dirt, whatever you need to do. Now I gave them 3 things I was trying for them to do. One, the only analogy I could think of was a country club. Try to turn our school into a country club looking building, the grounds are immaculate, landscaping is good. I think it's very important, we come back to a fresh building, fresh environment, very important for the psyche of staff and students. And we have a community garden in the back that will be torn out but brought back when the school's remodeled, because as ladies know, they take over your whole school with every truck and they dig it. I see some heads nodding, I know. So we're gonna go through there. We're gonna grow pumpkins for the kids, vegetables for the folks. Neighborhood people want to come out and help us. It's gonna be a community event. Just get everybody outdoors and enjoying each other, get to know each other, and so those are the things that we're looking at, trying to make sure we're prepared. Now, as far as next year goes, I am representing administrators on the operations team right now. We're focusing on phase 3, which Mike Schmidt's going to put out something soon. It doesn't involve kids right now, but waiting for the governor. I believe he's supposed to put something out on July 6th. I think that's when it's supposed to be submitted out, and then we'll be able to see what might happen for the school year. I will say this, and I will say this to anybody all the time. I get we have to be safe. I get we need to get children back in school. I mean, I'm a high school guy for almost 37 years. In the 4 years I've learned from being elementary, those little brains and bodies change, especially the little kids, so quickly. There's already been a lot of negative experiences for them, and especially even with the challenges some of our families already are facing. You know what I'm saying? So we really have to figure out a way. And one of our colleagues, I'll use her name because it's very big, in Calapaco, and all of us went to this training from a math training. She started off with data from New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina, because they had something similar where schools were closed for an extended period of time. And the effect on the youngest children was just astounding to me, how much they're affected. So I'm really hoping that some model or something will be created so that we can get the kids in. And I see from Alicia, logistically, how can it be done? Well, I'm already thinking about for my school. You go to the store with red dots on the floor. It's not impossible. There's red dots up and down every single hall. Okay, classrooms. All right, so we got 25 kids. There's options like, I don't think it's impossible. A schedule, B schedule. I know it's hard for parents with childcare and all that, but maybe you could do something similar to that. Maybe we have to be creative on the use of our spaces. We have a very large cafeteria. I'm already planning out we're going to do lunch duty 6 feet apart. Little card is where you sit, and then you move another 6 feet. I think we have a lot of people that are pretty bright, and I think, Alicia, we can figure out something that it's not impossible to do that will bring children into schools. And I think we have to do everything we can. Now, I'm not going to break the governor's directives and all those kinds of things. I do know a local district, Mary Masson's having a summer program for their primary kids because they know how important it is to get them some kind of learning. Now, it is capped at 10 kids. So that answers your question, Alicia. How are we going to be able to bring that many kids in? There's talking about a hybrid model, but none of this is decided. I'm just saying this is conversations. So we'll see what the governor says. I'm happy to be working on this operations committee. Yeah. Mike Schmidt puts out the stuff. I'm just a part of the team. I don't speak for him. Never wanted to. But Mary, I want to offer you this too. It's you have very strong opinions. That's fair. We all have opinions. You're entitled to yours. I'd like you to come visit my school, and as you gather more information about what's going on, maybe you can see how things are. Even though those of us don't have the $10 million extra dollars like East High gets, we still are doing some pretty good things with our kids. And it's hard to listen to be blunt, Mary, somebody bashing us about things that we don't care about our kids, and that's a bunch of crap. To be honest with you, I could use a more stronger word. I'm trying to be polite. Come see us, Mary, and then you can come back to another meeting and tell us everybody what you saw. So, and then maybe we can lighten up some of the bad.
Right, but no, I'd love to go. I'd love to be there. I'm not bashing you by saying I really am pleased with Sean Nelms and East. That's not bashing you. That's all I'm saying. Because I went through the transformation of East as head of the neighborhood East is in. That's all I'm saying. And I saw wonderful things happen. That doesn't mean I'm bashing anybody else. I'm saying it can be done. These were high school kids. And yeah, I would love to come to your school.
Good. That's what I would like. Thank you.
To compliment someone else does not mean I'm bashing you. To say I want to raise the quality of education and opportunity for our children of Rochester is just my conscience. That's all. And I used to teach. I know how tough it is. But that's where my heart is. That's all, just to raise the quality.
Yeah, when we were going through some of the meetings with the what was the name of the gal from New York State there that came when we met in the church, John, with Wade Norwood was there, and what was the gal's name who was the head of the group? Pardon?
No, I can't.
Yeah, I forget her name. But anyways, Wade did a really passionate talk about how when he was a parent in the 19th Ward, he lives over on Appleton, which is not too far from School 29, and his kids were going to School 29, and when he was he was in favor at the time of having the 7-8 in with the elementary schools, partly because he and the parents in his street would take turns walking their kids over to School 29, and the more years that they were going to be going there, the longer this neighborhood type of interaction with the school would last. Of course, then back about 2002, when we started this managed school choice policy, and we started busing kids all over the place, that kind of went away. But he was, he definitely had a strong desire to see neighborhood schools and to have the school interacting with the community. And it would really be nice to get him involved with us, the more the better, and also with the coalition. So I hope you'll be able to join us tomorrow, Eric. And also the thing I wanted to touch base with you on, Eric, is you had given a presentation to the Southwest Common Council back, let's see, when it was April maybe, on the results that your group had come up with in terms of the impact of poverty on health and
Outcomes, yeah.
And it would be that would be a great presentation to run through with this group, because that touches on a lot of the same things that 90 Feet Under touches, and I'd like to maybe next time or whenever it's convenient for you to run through that for us. That would be great.
Yeah, I'd definitely be interested. I mean, it's an interesting report. It's really the first of its kind comprehensive report in New York State that looks at the direct coalition. I mean, at the direct correlation between poverty and health outcomes, and we're using it. And we're using it. Someone had mentioned this earlier. It's important to know, like in the Finger Lakes, in the 9-county Finger Lakes region, poverty is not a black or brown issue. It's a black, brown, and white issue.
Mm-hmm.
And 55% of people in poverty in the Finger Lakes regions are white. And so if we could get past this idea, this false narrative that poverty is or something that affects just black and brown people, then and we can unite around it. We can make a difference. And Rochester has a proven track record of coming together to improve health outcomes, whether it's the coalition to prevent lead poisoning, that's now a model used across the entire country, where we were able to reduce lead poisoning by 85%. Whether it's Common Ground's high blood pressure coalition, where we have nurses and doctors partnering with church ministers and church leadership and training the church leadership to be mentors on managing your diabetes And over this 10-year effort, we've been able to reduce the amount of people that are suffering from hypertension in Rochester in the most poorest neighborhoods by 45%. So this is something that we can do. And, you know, and the report kind of summarizes that if poverty was treated like a virus, it would be on the front page of every newspaper, and it would be the number one subject on every news every single night.
Yeah.
And we can see the direct correlation between poverty and health. And to just also briefly state, you know, we came up with what's called a YPLL, which is years of potential life loss. And people living in poverty in the 9-county Finger Lakes region are likely to live 9 years shorter than those not living in poverty. So now we have neighborhoods that are losing institutional knowledge. They're losing elders far younger than they should. And we all know the importance of whether it's Big Mama or Uncle so-and-so, just those neighborhood presence in your neighborhood that are watching out for you, that aren't afraid to come up and talk to you, want to get to know you. We are losing those people 9 years younger than our neighbors in the suburbs. And this is something that we got to come together and address. I would love to share the whole report. It's super interesting. And yes, John, I would be more than welcome to.
We'd be
do that.
delighted to have you
Yeah,
share
thank you,
that.
Eric. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And in the chat, I've added a couple of links that you may find interesting. Let's see, make sure I got everything right there. Yeah, so there's a link to the 90 feet under presentation, and also the link where the presentation for the that was done yesterday will eventually get placed at, but it's not there yet. That was the one from the physicians that are trying to push for single payer. So all of these issues, which are somewhat interrelated, we'll try to stay on top of. Let's see. Did you have anything, Eleanor, for your group there?
Only that we're starting, we're hoping to start a cohort in August, but it's all relative depending on what the limitations are. And a lot of our program is about seeing people face to face and developing rapport with them. So to do it digitally does not appear feasible. So it's kind of up in the air right now.
Okay. Has
Well,
anything?
that'll be a great skill to learn.
Pardon?
That'll be a great skill to learn. I think as those people graduate and go into the workforce,
Yep.
people in another city who don't want to fly here, you're going to do it all by remote.
Yeah, you're right.
And so she did as an
But these are kids that this is not, first of all, there's a problem with access. And second of all, that's not how they learn well at this point. Like without, yeah, it's not the best strategy for these kids, particularly carpentry is really hard to do. You know, safety measures, how to do something safely. Usually you're doing those in group, you know, in person.
Yeah, you want to do those in 3D.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
John, I'm going to get with you, John Lane. I'm going to get with you and get some of your suggestions
Okay.
or your thoughts on this.
Mike Dondoffer, do you have anything new for the group?
Sure. Something I can share is, well, first I should introduce myself to people who haven't seen me yet. My name is Mike Dondorfer. I'm with Monroe County 4-H. We're a youth development organization based on doing experiential learning more hands-on learning with kids all over the county. Something we're moving on to doing, we're trying to offer more of is summer opportunities, mostly virtual. So we do have a summer fair to kind of replace the county fair and the state fair, which is something that 4-H is usually pretty involved in. I do have a flyer, which I just posted in chat. But we can also do things if schools are offering classes virtually over the summer, anything like that, then we can offer certain curricula and adapt them to a more virtual space. And we have educators that can come in and do that for free for public schools. Yeah, I was just focusing mostly on summer opportunities for now while we transition, thanks to COVID, with some of these different opportunities. So.
Very interesting.
Anything new from School 19 or School 10? Got Lee Loomis here also, who's been involved getting volunteers for School 10 in the past.
I'm excited to see Cameron here tonight.
Yeah,
he
gee.
speak with much greater authority than I can about the progress in the schools modernization program. Last I heard, we're 3 days away from the finish of the construction. Are we, Cameron? Is it on schedule?
They said they're pretty much on schedule. I'm not sure. They didn't really. The end of June is when they're done, and they said the first week of July is when they're going to start moving the furniture in. And then as far as moving our boxes from Marshall over to the school will take place like around July 25th or something like that. So it's coming along steady. But I'm excited about returning.
It looks good.
Yeah.
The neighborhood sure looks good. I mean, the school is a real shining spot in a neighborhood that already looked pretty good, but it's neat, and you still got lots of play area, even though your school expanded into a very large playground. So
Yeah, I think if people, I welcome you to come visit. I said the only area that I think we messed up was the main office. I think that's like the smallest area, trying to keep it to its original structure. We probably should have thought about relocating the main office or something because it's just really tiny.
Oh.
But other than that, it'll be great.
Well, the place still has a lot of character, I'll bet.
Yes.
Yeah, this
And
group.
and characters too.
Say again?
I say, and characters as well.
Yeah, well, we're really delighted to see the renovations there being completed. John and I recall when we were first fighting for School 16 and fought for School 19 and managed to get at least 2 of the 3 we've been fighting for renovated. But so it's we've got two schools in the 19th ward that are really going to be top notch, and of course 19, which is over in well, technically I guess it's in Swan, but it's in right on the border between Swan and Plex. Is an excellent school also that has gotten a lot of tender loving care in the last few years, so we've got some excellent schools in the area. And next will be 29, so we look forward to seeing all that continue, and I'll finish pulling together some of the slides from some of the presentations I've followed the last couple of days and get that to Eric and also the rest of you so that you can have some of this data to factor in as you look at what's coming up. Anything else that anybody wants to bring up?
Hello. Hi, it's Alicia.
Hey, Alicia.
In the chat earlier, I put a flyer, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, along with the Attain Lab and National Association for Negro Business and Professional Women's Club, will be tomorrow having an internet safety session. So it's targeted towards children in 3rd through 5th grades. So anyone can register. If you have children or you don't have children, it would be a good idea if you would register. And if you have a child that can be at the presentation, because it is catering to children. But since we are an educational group, I would like for that organization to be able to do a presentation to the group. And I think bringing them, for someone to come and be on the Zoom with them for the presentation might give you an idea of what they do more than anything else. So that's going to be happening tomorrow at 3, but you have to register ahead of time.
Okay. And the address for registering, you put it in the chat?
I put the flyer.
Okay.
If you scroll up on the chat, I think you'll see it. If you don't see it, I can send it.
Yeah,
I can send it again. And then also now I've just put in the chat a flyer from the Attain Lab, and we're doing our summer institute.
Mm-hmm.
So if there are individuals who are interested in Microsoft training or academic enrichment for their programs, please get in touch with me, because the Attain Lab, although we're not physically in the lab, we do have opportunities for training. And this is the best time, I would say, most opportune time to engage with the Attain Lab. For that very reason, you don't have to come to the building. And henceforth, you'll have to come to the building. So I think that'll be
Alicia,
yeah.
what did you say besides Microsoft training for the summer programming?
We have academic enrichment. We have new software called Edmentum and Aztec, and they go into academic and vocational training. So it's computer-based vocational instruction in a lot of different areas. So, Eleanor, I think you'd be interested in it for your programming.
Yeah.
So that's some stuff that's new from the Attain Lab.
Good. Okay. Anything else, folks? That'll do it. Okay. Well, thank you very much. And we'll be in touch. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John.
And thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
All right. Have a good night. Feel free to get in touch.
Will do.
All right.